Jordan love it. He loved working with me.
This is JordanTower with JT News. Make sure you smash that like button, hit that subscribe button. Okay, today we will be talking about something that Kasa brought up, and I've been getting a lot of like DMs about this, like, oh, is this true? Is this true? Okay, well, Kasa, first of all, shout out to Kasa. He's a great rapper, and he's legendary. I mean, DVDs, Skull Gang, Purple City. I mean, he was part of Purple City, and he was the main rapper, one of the main rappers in Purple City. Okay, him, Shice Bubs, Agala, I think, Agala. So, anyways, he's legendary for what he does. Okay, and Kasa's a great guy. Okay, but he told this story, and he's right. Okay, I'm not saying he's false. There's just a little more to the story that he's probably not. Yeah, he's not going to delve into this. This isn't something he would delve into. He's telling a story that happened in history with Max B and Juelz Santana, where they had a run-in at a mixtape store, and I was outside during this time. I didn't film what actually happened, okay?
If Jim come through here, that's the treatment. You know what I'm saying? Nigga said my boy come through here, that's the treatment. Nigga said my boy. Damn.
I did film another incident later with Jim Jones thing. So at this time, it was 2008, okay? And I was coming off of the Come Up DVD with me and Fendi, kind of ended the Come Up around the same. We still had a couple more series after this that I made from footage I was getting around that time, and I gave some additions to Fendi because I did appreciate our working relationship, and I did want to keep the brand going. That was the Yo Gotti DVD. There was a couple other ones. I think I did a Rick Ross. Gucci Man edition. So, anyways, I'm doing Juelz Santana. Okay, so me and Juelz formed a tight relationship at this time. We were putting a lot of videos on WorldsTar. At this time, him and Camron's relationship was stressed out behind the scenes. Nobody knew publicly at this time that Camron and Juelz weren't getting on, and it was pretty obvious that Jim Jones and Camron weren't getting along because this is around the time of Ballin'. And this is the time when 50 and I remember that actual shoot where Jim Jones was shooting a video in a cathedral in Harlem, and Camron went on the radio and went at 50 Cent, and they had this is where Dipset split, okay, because they didn't want to have a problem with 50 at the time. Jim Jones was just balling and all this other stuff. He didn't want to have that issue, and then you saw Jim Jones and 50 on The Basement, the Rap City, The Basement, and that showed his allegiance, kind of like, I don't have a problem with 50. That's Camron's problem, okay? That's a whole different issue. But this is kind of what split Dipset. Also, Juelz felt like he was being held back in a Camron contract, okay? And he wasn't able to drop an album. But the real reason he wasn't able to drop an album is that Jay-Z had a problem with Dipset, and he was the president of Def Jam, where Juelz had his contract at. That's where his record contract was with. It wasn't the fact that Camron wasn't letting him do whatever. Also, Juelz had a huge problem at this time that I started to realize, and this is why I distanced myself from him, is because he had a huge problem drinking cough syrup around this time. Okay, he got that from Lil Wayne. Obviously, he was influenced by Lil Wayne, and because they were best friends before this. But Juelz is a big part of ushering Lil Wayne into where he became Lil Wayne. Everywhere. Of course, he was solidified down south, and Lil Wayne. Juelz got from Lil Wayne is touring and all this other. Lil Wayne and Juelz, they were touring a lot together, and Juelz made more money than most New York rappers around that time. And what Lil Wayne got was the swagger from Juelz Santana and a cosign for up north. It was hard to break those barriers back then, okay? So, and Dipset was it, they were they controlled New York, them and G-Unit. So, anyways, there's a problem going on between Juelz and Camron, and Jim Jones has his own problems with Camron, okay? So this is when you start seeing Juelz and Jim Jones a lot together from like 07, 08, 09, 2010, okay? This is where Vado comes in the picture, you know, because this is where Camron's forming UN, okay? Then Juelz has Skull Gang now. What I told Juelz was, okay, he hadn't dropped an album since like 05, and it was 08, maybe 04, okay, he dropped his last album. What the streets been missing. And he was teasing the Reagan era for like years. It was never coming out. It was almost like, no disrespect to J Hood, but it was almost like when J Hood was on D Block promoting his album and it never came out. It wasn't his fault. They just didn't put it out. So Juelz Santana, we start doing videos together, and he's like, yo, we're gonna do Skull Gang. So I'm like, okay. But me and him get a little tighter, and I'm like, yo, bro, what you should do is you just take all your classics from all your mixtapes, and I did a list of like 30 songs, and I said, and I wrote treatments to all of them. I still have that composition book with all those treatments in it. Quick videos. We could have done like 4 a day. Juelz would have been back like he never left if he listened to me, okay? It's hard to usher in a whole new group and movement when first of all, of people you've never heard of before. Okay, I'm not talking about Kasa. I'm talking about Depp, John Depp, Rab, you know, and I like all these guys. It's just you haven't heard of them before. Some girl, I forget her name. There was a bunch of people that were down with Skull Gang, and he was trying to make another Dipset. And he was going beyond his means at that point. He had his credibility as a lyricist was there, but he hadn't been in the marketplace for 4 years. So I said, hey, we got to warm him up. What are they familiar with? They're familiar with Juelz Santana. You didn't see Jim Jones getting, what was the name of his group? It was the part, this is where Max B and you had Matrix and everybody. I forget the name of their thing. Jeez, I can't remember the name of it. Anyways, he had his own crew. But you didn't see him pushing that until he had Ballin' and everything else out. And he was moving like a steamroller through the industry. Of course, it didn't work out because the only person that was no offense, the person that was really talented there was Max B. And he didn't... I'm sorry, Stack Bundles and Max B. Okay, Stack Bundles had passed. But Stack Bundles and Max B were the true talent out of Bird Gang. That's what it was, Bird Gang. So, so getting to the story, I have to give you the backstory before we get to the story. And then I got some footage of Max B giving the treatment to somebody else. So anyways, what happened was Max B had a problem with Jim Jones. I did the first interview with the come up, and that's where you get the Blow Me a Dub video, okay? I did that, okay? That's when he first had his problem and announced it to the world. His real problem, and as becoming friends with Max B over the years, I understood the real problem. The real problem was he had legal issues. Jim Jones didn't really bail him completely out of jail. It was another girl. I'm not going to say her name, but she put up the money, helped him get out of jail, and she put up property and everything, okay? Max B felt he wasn't getting taken care of by Jim Jones and was getting used, okay? Because he was writing a lot of stuff behind the scenes, okay? He wrote Ball and a lot of other stuff. Jim Jones, he probably addressed this issue with Jim Jones, and Jim Jones kind of brushed it off. And you can only get brushed off by so much. He had a huge case coming up. He needed money to fight the case. And Jim Jones wouldn't let him drop. He wouldn't let him be Max B. So he didn't have to, but he did. He chose. Sometimes you got to choose in life. Yourself? Are you going to be loyal, right? To a point where you're destroying yourself, right? And this has nothing to do with street stuff, so don't tell me, that's a different thing. We're talking about business. We're not talking about the streets right now. We're talking about business, okay? So as far as music business, are you going to be loyal to a point where you're going to destroy yourself? Are you going to, like, let's relate this to something else. Are you going to sign a deal with Def Jam? And yeah, you had nothing. You signed the deal. You get $1 million, right? But then it's a bad deal. Are you going to continue in the contract with a bad deal and not getting paid because they saved you and they delivered you to the world? Well, they're making money too. It's a business. Streets is different. You take there's morals, principles, and you know what you're getting into. It's a certain kind of life, and you don't sell people out to get less time in jail. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about making money, okay? Max B paid his dues with Jim Jones, Ballin', a bunch of other songs, Pin the Tail on the Dog, a bunch of things, okay? Made Jim Jones a lot of money. Jim Jones didn't let him shine. Okay, this is what I was talking about before in another video where 50 Cent is really real for the fact that he put his people on, okay? He dropped a hot album. He might have gotten help with them in that album. I don't know what they might have done, but anyways, on the next run, he did a G-Unit album and stamped everybody. You know, Young Buck had a career. Tony O had a career. Lloyd Banks had a career. Jim Jones didn't do that. Jim Jones let him feature on it, let him write his lyrics and everything. And then he didn't stamp him. He didn't let him fly like a bird, okay? So Max B chose to preserve himself. So he went against the grain, and it worked. Destroyed the mixtape circuit. He couldn't drop an album because he was signed. Couldn't get a deal anywhere because he was signed. But he punished Jim Jones for holding him back. And he crossed a threshold that you can't go back on. He talked about his wife and, you know, too much personal stuff. And Max B's true enemy was Jim Jones for, you know, a lot of things, okay? But mostly holding him back, okay? And broken promises. You can't break someone's promises, you know, like, especially someone that got nothing. So when he would go off the cusp, he'd be, you know, like talking and stuff. I filmed a lot of the interviews where he's talking about it. I might have filmed the Juelz one and working with Juelz at the same time. I'm just media, okay? I'm neutral, okay? So Juelz and I would talk about this. I told him when he saw that Max B thing, I said, yo, man, Max B doesn't have a problem with you. His problem was with Jim Jones. He's like, yeah, I know. That's why he was able to laugh at it. Where Kasa's talking about that footage, I had talked to Max about that. I said, yo, bro. He's like, nah, I was tripping. You know, he was drunk. You know, so anyone gets it at that point. You working with Jim Jones, you're affiliated. You're going to get it. But he said, I have no problem. So I let Juelz know. I said, yo, that's not about you. So when they ran into each other, when Max B was dropping off tapes and stuff, he was by himself. Max B used to roll with a lot of people. Juelz caught him at the right time. Juelz had the whole Skull Gang with him. Juelz was dropping his tape. So Max B, doing the smart thing, right? Talked to Juelz like a man and said, hey, that wasn't about you. Juelz, you know, tried to flex a little bit and took his CDs. You know, Max B said, whatever. You know, $20 with the CDs, you know, like, oh, whatever, you know. You know, because like 20, he pressed them up for what, 50 cents each? You know, it's like nothing. You know, it's like, take the box, man. You know, whatever, you know. And, you know, they pieced it out. No pressure was put. It was a calm conversation. You know, Max B knew he was caught slipping. You know, he didn't have his team with him. But I'll tell you one thing. I've been with Max B, and one of Jim Jones's people got caught slipping, and I got the footage, and I'm going to play it for you in a second. When you get washed, okay? If Max B was rolling strong, I mean, I'm not saying he would have done this to Juelz, or nobody would have been scared of that, but anybody can get caught slipping and you can get washed, especially around that time. You know, that was the end of, like, you know, that kind of era. So that's basically what happened. And, you know, some people might believe, oh, I don't believe you that Camron and Juelz had a problem. They did. Listen, okay?
This is January, right? When was the crash?
That was back in
June?
Yeah.
So it's going on about 8-9 months, right? Been out the contract. Who's holding them up now? You understand what I'm saying? Hawaii, like 100 Hawaiian, go to the studio, he has Hawaii, like 100 Hawaiian punches already pre-mixed with this stuff in it, you know what I'm saying? So I was kind of like, stop speaking to him, like, yo, we already smoked, man. We don't need to be he on Robitussin. I called his mother about it. I called his closest friends about it. They knew about it. They was like, the kid is not that bad. It isn't like he's overdoing it. And I'm like, yo, that's like saying he just smoked a little bit of crack.
So yeah, like Camron and Juelz had a problem, okay? That was a fact, okay? And this is, again, what I was referring to earlier. He had a problem. This is why I distanced myself from Juelz, okay? He had I noticed he was always drinking Hawaiian Punch. And he would, like, after he drank it, he would, you know, be sucking his teeth and everything. I was like, what is in that stuff, man? What it was Robitussin. Well, you know what it was. It was Activist, okay? So he was, I was like, oh, this guy's out of his mind. You know, like he would argue with me about crazy stuff back then. I remember I'm not going to go into detail about this, but like, I remember one night he like gave me like, I don't know, like $200, right? And I gave it back to him. I was like, nah, because that wasn't any money at that time. And I was like, you know, if you're gonna pay me for my time, it's gonna be a few thousand, you know. So I didn't take offense to that. The only thing I took offense to was one day, for some reason, I didn't have any cash on me, right? And I was in Jersey. I was like, yeah, I gotta go home and get some cash because I kept my cash at home. And I was operating like a weirdo around this time. I was like 25, 26, somewhere in there, okay? Dummy. Wasn't keeping my money in the bank. Was keeping my money at home like an idiot. So I had to go home and get money. And around that time, I moved to the outskirts of the city. So I was just outside the city. And Juelz was in Jersey. So I was like, I have a meeting at Universal in the morning. So I kind of got to go home to have money for parking and everything and tolls. And, you know, I just got to keep like 500 to 1,000 on me. So he's like, all right, come over. Let's do the videos. And I'll just give you a couple hundred for that. You know, I was like, sure, I'm always down to work at that time. At that time, I was nonstop work. I was trying to prove myself just to the world, you know, I have as much content as possible. So I remember the morning rolls around and I got my meeting in like a few hours. So I was like, yo, let me take a shower real quick downstairs, and I need a couple hundred for that, you know, to do this thing. Yo, this is what he said. Yo, I just bought a couple pounds of green, and you know, my brother will come by and give me some money. I don't have any money on me. He spent all the money he had in his pocket. So I was like, man, you gotta be kidding me, man. Like, yo, I got a meeting at Universal. It's important, you know? And he was like, yo, my brother's gonna be here soon. So I'm waiting around. Guess what? I missed my meeting, right? So I'm like, yo, I'm gonna just go home. So I just go home, right? Because like I missed my meeting. I shot home, tried to get you know, because I didn't have money for parking and everything, so I tried to shoot home, thinking he was gonna have. I could have gone home and got to the meeting, but he told me his brother was coming. You know, so I was like, you know, this guy's out of his mind. You know, he would do crazy things. You know, he would refuse to work on his stuff. He was adamant about stamping Skull Gang and not doing his stuff at the same time. I said, let's do both. We can do Skull Gang and Juelz Santana, but he was focused on Skull Gang, and it didn't work. It didn't work, okay? Because this is why it didn't work. People weren't familiar with Skull Gang. They want to hear Juelz Santana. Now, if they were hearing Juelz Santana, and then a Skull Gang track came on after, which I suggested, I said, yo, let's do a classic Juelz, and then go into a Skull Gang joint. It'll kind of like, you know, soften it up, soften them into liking Skull Gang. He said no. So I was like, all right. You know, with stuff like that, you just can't you can't win, you know. So the reason I distanced myself is I just started, like, after that incident where I missed my meeting, I was like, he doesn't care. You know, like, when people show you they don't care about you, bounce, you know. I wasn't bouncing forever, but I took a week away. I won't name the person. Someone called me around the Skull Gang thing. Nobody in Skull Gang, just one of the guys that hangs around, and you know, that I was friends with in Harlem. He's like, yo, why haven't you been going around Juelz? And I was friends enough with this guy where I would tell him. I said, oh man, you know, sometimes I missed that meeting, and you know, I just gotta keep my distance for a minute, you know. Juelz is on the phone. Juelz is like, hey man, I hear what you're talking about. He was listening in on the call, like high school. So I was like, you gotta be kidding me, Juelz, man. Like, this is like high school stuff. So like, we started screaming at each other, and then DJ Khaled calls me after. I don't know how he found out about that, but he's trying to like mediate between me and Juelz, like it's a real issue. I said, bro, it's not a real issue, bro. It's like, it's just kind of spooky, you know? And I'm friends with everybody in Skull Gang. I was friends with Kasa still, Rab, all of them, you know? So, like, you know, I think DJ Khaled was worried that, because I was working with a lot with Khaled at the time, and I think like, Khaled was, I don't know, Khaled, basically, around that time, you know, he was having his birthday thing, and Juelz was coming, and he didn't want to, like, have an issue, because I was there filming, and, you know, I was like, bro, like, it's not that serious, you know, I'm friends with everybody there, you know, so, that's what happened with me and Juelz, and we never really worked together again after that, even though, recently, if you saw in 2016, he dropped Up in the Studio, Getting Blown, Part 1 and 2, he put me on the intro. I'm sure we're fine. I tried to reach out to him around that time. Actually, I was like, yo, bro, I actually reached out to him. I said, hey, I can help you if you want to do this again. You know, like, I wanted to see Juelz come back again still, but he never communicated with me. He never called me or anything. He just put like 100, you know? So I was like, oh, he's still not focused. And as you can see, he wasn't focused. He dropped Up in the Studio 1 and 2, dropped something else after that, then did Love and Hip Hop. Then a year goes by, and then he hits the whole thing with the TSA. So maybe Juelz will be focused after being away. He was still obviously under the influence, you know, he's missing teeth and stuff. And I'm not saying this to like diss Juelz. I like Juelz. I just feel that he has demons he's got to overcome. Okay? So Kasa is right about that situation, but it was not like a press type of situation. It was more like a, you know, respect. Max B and Juelz were both going through similar situations at the time. Max, just that they had different people over them that they had a problem with. You know, Camron was the issue for Juelz. Jim Jones was the problem for Max B, so he could kind of relate to it at the moment, but it wasn't his business, that he wasn't going to get involved in it, and he wasn't going to acknowledge that, oh yeah, I see. And Juelz even responded to Camron around that time.
He was kind of like looking for a way to just answer these questions the best way he knows how. You know what I'm saying? So you gotta understand, me and Cam been together for 5 years as far as, you know, the relationship we had. So for him to tell y'all the reason he stopped speaking to me for drinking scissor, that's like Baby saying I don't mess with Wayne no more because he was drinking scissor. Or you dig what I'm saying to that extent? So I think it was like he just wanted to say something, and that was the only way he could probably say something, and you know what I mean, keep his character up. You know what I'm saying? And at the same time, because you know, what I do on my own time is my own time, and I was never addicted to syrup. I was sipping it, you know, on occasions when I felt like sipping it.
Juelz was strongly addicted. Even when he got caught with the TSA, he had pills and stuff on him. He still has a problem. You know, I mean, it's better that he deals with it, you know, right now. I'm sure he will. He has a family. He has a beautiful family. And I hope that, you know, he works through all those problems, you know. But anyway, you know, shout out to Kasa. It was a good story. And he was right. You know, there's just more to it. Why not add to it instead? Yeah, people keep hitting me up. But this is like, this isn't a secret, okay? Most of this stuff is just most of the people can't connect the dots with it because they weren't around it at the time. There's so many dots to connect, but all the dots are public, except for the story I told you about me and him having a problem. But that's just a personal thing, and I had no ill ill thoughts of him after that. It was just I was a little disappointed because I really wanted to see him come back in 2008-9, and he had those demons he was dealing with, you know. Shout out to Kasa, shout out to everybody, man. Anyways, guys, what do you guys think about this? Let me know below.
Damn. Let's do a run through. Jordan love it. He love working with me.
Man, can you point at him when you say London? Please.
I did.
Don't point at yourself. I want him to point at you.
You always get money. Damn. Yeah. 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 He got the only pass.
Ready, go.
If Jim come through here, that's the treatment.
You know what I'm saying?
Wells come through here, that's the treatment.
Nigga said my boy couldn't come to home.
If Hell come through here, that's the treatment. Hell no. If them other niggas come through here, I'm not even saying their name, because I don't want to get them wavy. Them niggas is assed out. It's that simple. Why they hate a nigga stabs. Then you got the scene with the coppers running. Yep. Real video, I always do it for you, don't I? Don't I? Don't I for South London? You got me on this, Jordan. You got me on this? Oh, God. Why they hate a nigga stabs.